Hey moms, welcome back to the channel. And today we would normally have a PCOS update for my fertility journey, but today we're going to talk about something that's a little bit more important, and we're going to talk about chronic pain while being a mom. So as you can see, Dawn is joining me today. And one of the things that we have in common is that we're moms, but we also are currently living in chronic pain, and for different reasons. And it's something that Dawn's been dealing with for the whole time, as long as I've known you. So before that, so yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about what that's like, how it affects our lives, our children, and yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on with you, Dawn?
Yeah, so it kind of feels like a broken record at this point for folks that I interact with on a normal basis.
Sure.
But I mean, and it's, kind of a perfect example where you and I met, 4 some odd years ago or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been living with chronic pain for probably just over 5 years.
Okay.
The migraines came back. I had migraines before being pregnant with my oldest, Vinny. And they subsided for a little bit, but then they had come back pretty fiercely about 5 years ago. And the unfortunate part is that I don't get a break. I literally wake up with them. I go to sleep with them. They're there every part of my day. Now, granted, there are days that are worse than others, and there's different migraines that hurt worse than others. But every day, at any moment of the day, I always have a migraine. And went through neurologies and failed about 8-10 different drugs and drug combinations, went through the full food diary and cataloging and removal of all the triggers, and literally was eating one or two things a day for a week, and then adding something new and never found a trigger. So the only relief that I've managed to get actually is while I was pregnant with Marshall. I woke up one day feeling really, really off, and then realized I did not have a headache. So I immediately took a pregnancy test, and I was pregnant.
Right.
And so the whole time with Marshall, I only had 2 headaches the entire time I was pregnant with him. And then they came immediately back about 2 months after he was born.
Mm-hmm.
And so since then, because we've already gone through neurology and imaging and all those things that you do, we started looking at other stuff, and they found that I have, pretty severe TMJ, arthritis in the jaw, reverse curvature of the top 5 vertebrae in my neck, limited mobilities. They found some kind of degeneration kind of going on in the neck as well. And so, when they look at those pictures, full well from your job,
Yeah.
those will wreak havoc, right, on everything.
Yes.
And so been going through years of physical therapy and massage therapy and dry needling and manipulations and home exercises. And now I have a 30 to 45-minute routine that I have to do pretty much every day just to keep my migraines at a tolerable level. And we still keep working toward trying to find a solution. But when you've got so much dysfunction, with your body, which obviously, it puts strain on being a mom to, 2 fairly active boys, also very close and clingy.
Mm-hmm.
So they always want to be climbing or held or, carried and things like that. And, as moms, it's hard to say no to that stuff.
Yes.
Right. And so, I've had several conversations with my husband saying, if it wasn't for these kids, I literally have no idea how I would manage through it. About, let's see, I think we're at like a year and a half of it now. So March, so about 14 months after Marshall was born, I started having abdominal pains that just are there kind of every day. And at first I thought I like pulled something, and then they figured out that there's probably issues with scar tissue and adhesions. And recently they've come to the conclusion that there's endometriosis.
Oh, okay.
So what my OBGYN wants to do, he says, you have two options. He goes, one, and the easiest route is, get pregnant again. We'll do another C-section. He's like, you'll be without pain. It'll let the body relax. We'll get some relief in there. He was like, and then when we go in for a C-section, I'll take out everything while I'm in there.
Right.
But alas, he's not signing up for the daycare bill that follows. So,
Yeah.
and I haven't played the lottery to win it.
You do have to play to win.
Yeah. Fundamental flaws, but, so that's probably not on our immediate or ever agenda, probably,
Right.
as much as I would love another one. I love being pregnant. I love the infant stage. I'm one of those weird ones.
Me too.
So, as much as that sounds so appealing, and knowing like with the experience last time, it felt wonderful in comparison to the everyday headaches and things like that. And now it's worse. He says that I'm too young to really kind of go in and do the full hysterectomy that he wants to do. He said, yes, we could, but I don't like doing it with patients that are as young as you.
Right.
So he wants me to kind of hold out for another couple of years, right? Which means now we're down this chronic pain management track, right? And so along with that, having an existing anxiety disorder, and insomnia before all of this happened, it's made for an interesting cycle, right? And so, and obviously very different from your experience, right? There wasn't just an impact or one event, right? It's my body kind of like rebelling against itself in a lot of ways. And which makes it harder because it's like you sit there and you go, well, and we don't even know how bad it's going to get before I can potentially get any relief. And the doctor is already telling me that they're probably never going to get me to pain level 0. My best outlook is 20 to 25% of what I'm feeling right now, which compared to how I live right now, like I'm signing up for that every day, right? I'm willing to do it. Like if I've done this, I'm willing to take that level. Like, and so I've been like, no, if you can get me relief, that's fine. And so now I'm on, in addition to having the Mirena, I'm on an oral contraceptive to try to maintain and control the endometriosis. So it's trying to trick my body to stop doing the female things that make endometriosis worse and tend to spread it. But the effects of that is that now I have high blood pressure and at a higher risk of blood clots and things like that. So now I'm on a blood pressure medicine for that. And then, the words severe depression and anxiety have come out of both my therapist and my primary care. But where they're stuck is that I'm also a good night, I can get 2 or 3 hours of solid sleep. So maybe I'm getting about 5, maybe 6 hours of sleep total, but it's very broken. And so with the insomnia, they're not sure if it's the sleep deprivation and the pain that's causing the anxiety and depression to get worse, but that's what's prevalent. And, complaints in addition to, I would be okay being tired if I wasn't like cranky and irritable and on edge and jumping and if I was able to focus, like, I mean, I'm sure you can identify, like you lose the ability to function the way that you can and you should. You lose the ability to focus on the relationships that you have in your life, whether it's, romantic or even for childcare, right? I mean, we fall on swords happily to protect and defend our kids, but then you just have like those moments where you're present, but you're not. And one of the ways that my therapist described it, she's like, so you can appreciate and enjoy their joy, but you don't have any internal joy. So you don't bring any joy to the table, right? She's like, you can share what's at the table. So you're not like killing their joy, right? She's like, but you're not really bringing and exuding that with them.
Right.
And she says, and then, you get into the point of, are my kids needy and clingy because that's the time that they can get with me? Like, I can't really run and play and wrestle and do the playful stuff that I used to,
Right.
especially since the 6-year-old took me out at the knee and I now have a torn meniscus. And they had found arthritis and degeneration in that knee too, like on a scale of 1 to 4, I'm already at a 3, right? So, they're already saying, at some point in my life, I'm likely going to need a knee replacement. Fun stuff ahead. But, the therapist was like, well, I wonder if they're clingy because you can sit and hug them, but you're not running and playing and doing that. They may be adjusting to get the version of you that exists right now.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And so but it's like really sad too, right? It's like, I don't want this to be the remembrance that my kids have, that I'm snapping at them, that I'm yelling, that, and you've met my kids, they are not quiet. I'm pretty sure they both talk in their sleep, and,
Yeah.
it's constantly inside voice, please stop screaming, please stop squealing. Like, it's just, and that's not who I want to be. And that makes the depression and anxiety worse because I can't, like, it's a reaction. It's not a choice to be me, right? Like, and I know that everything suffers, the romantic relationships suffer, the parental relationships, like, I've, pretty much avoid going out and talking to people. And, like my in-laws are like, we never even see you anymore. Yeah, because I just don't have the energy to deal with anything outside of what I deal with.
Right.
I interact with people all day at work. I'm just done. Like, and even those aren't great. Like, I used to be very on top of stuff, very quick, very reactive. I managed 7 projects. I would have been able to rattle everything off. And now I'm having to constantly refer to notes, and that's not me.
Right.
And then I find, because of the depression and anxiety, when I'm getting, feedback that may be critical, I'm taking it like personally, and I'm having to stop and regroup. And those are things that I'm not used to at all. It all just snowballs, right? It's like one thing, and then it's almost impossible to peel it apart. Even from my medical team, when I look at them, they're like, we don't know if you need like pain management, psychiatry, just,
a little bit of
like,
everything.
and so we're really, so thankfully I have a team that looks at things more holistically, and is like, let's try doing this, let's try that, let's add in that, but they work as a team so that they're not manipulating 5 things at once, so we don't know what's happening. We make one change at a time through the entire network, which unfortunately means that it's a very slow progress. Like, they just changed a medicine, that I'm on, that's supposed to help with like nerve pain and fibromyalgia and just chronic pain. One of the side effects being sleep, right? And we tried that, and 6 weeks later it's not doing anything. So we just swapped last week, and now we've got to wait another 6 weeks to know if this helps,
Well, and like high dosage medications like that too, you have to like, there's a period between like switching to a new medication too, because I know like depression, antidepressant and anxiety medicine and stuff like that. I have a cousin who she was a mom, her daughter was 15, and she committed suicide because she switched medications too many times in such a short amount of time. And I hope that the doctor got sued, because it's his fault for not, for doing what she wanted and not what was best for her. You know what I mean? Like,
there's definitely a titrate up and titrate down, and you don't follow certain drugs with other drugs, and
it's like when you're dealing with stuff like that, with the chronic pain, the anything mentally, like there is an ebb and flow that you have to follow with medications, because they are literally affecting the chemical balance in your body. So I'm that's really good. Like, I know it's a slow process, but like, I'm glad that your doctors are taking that process though.
Well, and part of that's because I don't know if I've shared this with you, but before I was getting treated for depression and I was misdiagnosed.
Oh, I did not know that.
They thought that I was bipolar. So
Mm,
fun fact, bipolar meds can make you bipolar if you're not bipolar.
interesting. I did not know
And with
that.
the insomnia and then being medically bipolar and having suicidal ideations, then they put me on anti-schizophrenia meds. So like literally I was like a zombie, like, and like the doctor that I was seeing told me to stop. Like I was in the gym 5 to 7 days a week, blah, 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 blah. It was my fit days way before I've met you. Um, I've been big since we met.
Oh, me
But
too,
like,
girl.
I was like, I'm like literally like 150, 160 pounds, which, for being 5'7", that's decent, like solid, whatever. He
Yeah.
was like, no, he was like, you're going to gain weight on this medicine, but you need it. He goes, and you're going to gain weight either if you're in the gym or not. So I suggest you coming out of the gym because you'll just get frustrated that you're at the gym and still gaining weight. So in like 4 months, I gained 75 pounds.
Jesus Christ.
I went from
That's,
a like 12 to a 22 in 4 months.
well, if that's not going to make anybody depressed, then I don't know what would.
And then it
That's
was like, and by the time I got to like a point where like somebody finally kind of got clued into what was going on,
yeah,
and like then to switch it, then it's like it was like 6 months to your point of work to get kind of off of those things because
right.
they can't just because and then dealing with the psychiatric episodes that go with being misdiagnosed and
Mhm.
bad medication,
Right.
right? It's just this whole ordeal. And so following that, I wound up working with, I found somebody who was finally willing to work with me to try to get to a medication free state, because I was so afraid of them. And so that's kind of where I've been.
Mhm.
And so I've been very afraid of then going down a a medication path again,
Right.
which is why the team is taking this overly cautious approach with me, is because I've been down that path before and I know that I'm sensitive to those drugs.
Right.
Like some people may not have had that reaction, but apparently my body had a severe sensitivity to some of those things,
Oh,
which then made a bad situation worse. Thankfully, I was not a mom at that point because I don't know what
yes.
kind of world that would have been. But
I
yeah,
can't even imagine.
and then it's like, I in some ways it's like, and it'd be interesting to get like your perspective. In some ways, like it would almost be easier for me to deal with this if there was like an impact or an accident that I could blame
If you had a
versus
reason,
like, right,
a cause.
versus, yeah, versus, well, I mean, endometriosis and the scar tissues and things like that is because it was medically necessary C-sections for the boys. Like that's fine, right?
Yeah.
And so I know where that's coming from, but it's like all the other stuff. It's like your body just kind of starts getting inflammation and breaks down and deteriorates over time, right? And there's nothing to really blame,
Right.
right? Like there's not like an accident, like in your case or things like that, but I feel like also like, and that's why I would be interested to hear your perspective, because then I'd also be like so mad at that other driver, like that I'd be angry on top of depressed and anxious.
I didn't start out angry, but I am now. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a lot. And that, like, that's the same. Like, I can't imagine just not having an explanation for,
And people are
yeah,
like, how are you? And you're like, fine, like it'll just be easier. You don't really want to know. Like, and then you do have the people like your mom, right,
yeah,
who do want to know.
they
And you're
do want
like,
to know.
nope, I'm not going to talk about it because then you like also get upset and depressed and upset over having to communicate it, right?
Yes.
Like, so even like with my husband and even with Angel and you guys, it's there, but I don't really want to keep talking about it because it
Yeah.
doesn't make me feel better. It makes me feel worse. And then I
And,
feel like I'm dragging them down and I don't want to do that.
or then you feel like you're talking about yourself all the time. And you don't want to do that either because
Right.
you don't want to make everything about you. And that is one of the things that I'm struggling with right now, is because I don't want things to be about me. And like let's start from the beginning. On April 20th this year, I got into a horrific car accident. Um, Something in the universe was apparently looking out for me that day, because I really probably should have been in the hospital. It was so bad.
Those pictures were horrific.
When we saw it in person, I think off the car, I had already seen it So I wasn't crying, but I'm pretty sure my mother-in-law and my husband were when they saw it for the first time in the yard when we had to go empty it out because it was totaled. There's no way it wasn't totaled. Like they didn't even have to tell us. I'm like, no, nope, we got to get a new car. But it was awful. And I was able to get out of the car and walk away. I did not go to the emergency room that day. And I think now, you know, almost 3 months later, no, it is 3 months later,
Mhm.
3.5 months later, I'm like, maybe I should have gone to the emergency room, but I don't know that it would have made a difference that day because that first week I was just in pain. I was very fortunate that my mother-in-law was able to come up and she stayed with us for 5 days. She took Aria to school. She took care of Aria. Like she got us food. She helped Mike. They did laundry, like, because I could do nothing. I could sit there or I could lay there. And I didn't even do that very well. I wasn't sleeping. And that first week was just all this pain, but then I thought I was getting better. And then the next week, like exactly a week, I just started getting, well, Monday before, I guess, I got adjusted like I normally do. And I felt a little relief. And then a couple hours later, like my head just started to hurt. And I guess I'm lucky. That's a horrible word. I don't know. That my body decided to deal with the major pain first, I guess. And then it decided to let the concussion present itself, which doing research, that's not unheard of, that the concussion
Right.
presents several
After,
days to weeks later. And that might actually be the worst pain I've ever been in my life. That Tuesday, I was home by myself. No, but Mike was home. I was home. Everybody was home, I guess. I felt like I was by myself. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I definitely couldn't eat anything. I just felt like I was going to throw up or I was going to pass out it was awful. All I could do was lay in the bed and try my very best to not move and sleep. And that didn't happen a lot. It was awful. And that didn't go away for like 3 days. I even went and got adjusted the next day. I text one of my doctors who's been on the channel before, Dr. Kat, and she's like, I don't know. She's like, go see Chick in the morning. And, you know, if that doesn't help, then you may need to go to the emergency room. And, I guess it helped a little bit. I don't know, but I ended up calling my lawyers that day because I was hoping I could just deal with the insurance and be done with it, but I wasn't going to need all of this care. And I was wrong. And so I called the lawyers and they had MRIs done of my neck and everything because that was a lot of the pain. And I went to see the neurologist. And so currently I am seeing orthopedic, neurology, and part of neurology is brain physical therapy and my chiropractic care. And now I've added a neuromuscular therapist because we're at a place with orthopedic where there was so much pain in my neck, which is where they thought the headaches were coming from originally. I ended up getting injections, like a steroid injection into my neck for 3 of the discs that are in there. 2 of them are hurt. Well, 3 of them are technically herniated, and 1 of them is extruding and pressing against my spinal cord. So they thought that's probably where all of the headache stuff's coming too, but we're still going to do neurology, and it all plays in together because your spinal cord, you know, that's where your nerves are. And well, everything comes from the spinal cord. And so we're treating that. The pain in my neck got better, but the headaches weren't. So neurology actually ended up prescribing me gabapentin, which is commonly used for fibromyalgia, but it was a low dose to treat my headaches. And it's not making them go away. Like it's not a cure,
Right.
but it's helping it not be present, not be the like present pain, I guess. And when I first started taking it, the pain was definitely still there. And now I've been doing these therapies. It's concussion therapy. I call it brain PT because I'm doing all of these therapies to help alleviate things and get crystals back in line and balance and all that jazz. And that's helping bring the headaches, like to get, I still have headaches. There's still some kind of buzz that's there.
Some manageable level of help.
Yes.
So it makes it more manageable, doesn't make it gone. Right. But to be perfectly honest, when you're in that level of pain, even this much relief feels amazing.
Absolutely.
Like if you were to drop somebody in where your current pain level is, they may be screaming that it's a 10, right? Yes. But for us, we're like, oh my gosh, I can hear, like, wait, I don't hear my blood pumping.
Right. And that's absolutely a thing. Because when I was
like, I'll sit there and I can hear my brain, like, and like, that was one of those things that I could actually understand when Vinny had his concussions last year. He was like, Mom, I hear my heartbeat. I'm like, oh no, baby, I know how bad that hurts. Mm-hmm. You can at least, like, I mean, and the thing is, like with him, he was fine, right? Like, so he gets to still live his life probably perfectly fine, we would imagine.
I assume so. He had a little bit of a limp, but he seemed fine. And he was very apologetic, I can tell you that. But I can also tell you that now I don't care that he was apologetic. At the time, that's what I told people. I was like, he was really nice and apologetic, and he's like, I'm so sorry, and you know, he's like, I didn't mean to, you know, they'll take care of you. And I'm like, I'll be okay, because that's how I felt, and I'm not okay.
You had no idea how bad it was in that impact. You have shock and everything, and then adrenaline. Like none of us know in that moment what's happening, but like, I mean, I just get angrier and angrier because the chances are he's not dealing with the things post that you are, right?
Not like I am. No way. Like he was in what happened to his vehicle was the front was the radiator busted. I mean, his truck was totaled, but there was nothing wrong with the inside of his car. You know, the door got jammed, so he had to come out of the window. But like, I don't know that an airbag went off or anything like that. I don't know, but he seemed fine, and he probably is, and that sucks. And the people in front of me are probably fine, which good, because it was not my intention to hit them.
Right.
I stopped that day. I was stopped. I wasn't hitting anybody, you know, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But not as.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd struggle with that anger piece on top of it, right? Because, you know, like me, I don't really have anything or anyone to be angry at other than like my body, you know. I mean, and that's different, but I would have, like, you know, I could absolutely see being like furious at that other driver. Like,
it did take me a little bit to get there. Like the first accident that I was in, Aria was in the car with me, and I was angry because my daughter, she was in the car, and
she was little too.
She was 6 months old. But in this accident, and that's another thing that I've been angry about actually, is that if she had been in the car, we absolutely would have gone to the emergency room, because I don't know.
And maybe jail.
Maybe jail. It's very possible. Jail as well. Messed up and everything.
Right.
I would have, like, her legs would have been broken. Her face would have been smashed. Like, I don't know what condition she would have been in if she would have been in that car, and that makes me like,
well, and just be thankful and grateful for that one thing, right? Like, I mean, because that was like literally when Angel told me, I was like, was A in the car?
Yeah.
And she was like, she didn't mention her. I said, okay, then that means she probably wasn't. I said, because that would have been the first thing out of her mouth. But then when she sent the pictures, I was like, say that baby was not in that car.
No,
like,
it was so grateful that I left her home that day. She was supposed to be with me. And like, that's like another part of the mental part of you're already in the pain, but then you have like this anxiety, and I'd never had anxiety before, and I have had legitimate anxiety attacks. I thought I was dying.
Yep.
That's happened several times, and that's a new thing.
So I've had an anxiety disorder for a while.
Yeah, and like a big thing for me, because I do work in a medical office, I see patients face to face. I literally could not remember patients' names. Also, I'm the one who does the insurance stuff in the back office. I deal with finances and insurance companies and lawyers for other people's auto accidents. Like, I need to be on point, and I've been struggling so hard. It's getting better, but it's been a really big struggle of like having to make extra lists and triple checking things to make sure I'm sending the right stuff in, because that's important. Like, it's my job. It's affecting
Right.
people's lives, other people's lives, you know? And that's been a really big struggle. But that affects my job with Momestly Me as well, because I've 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 not been the best at like posting stuff anyways, because I squirrel all the time. But I was trying to get in the habit, and then I'm supposed to be doing our thinking Momestly quotes and like coming up with these things and posting these things of like original, like things that are relevant to us, that's supposed to be hopefully inspirational or relevant to other people. And I can't think of it. I'm a mom who experiences motherhood every day, and I can't sit down and focus enough to write these things out. And that's so frustrating. And I also don't know how to say, I can't do this, because I don't want to admit that I can't do this. And so then Angel has picked that slack up, which has been amazing. But at the same time, very frustrating for her, because that's my responsibility. And I don't want to use what's going on with me as an excuse to not do things. But it's not, it's a reason. It is the reason. Like, it's the reason that my floor looks disgusting behind me. It's the reason that my daughter's toys are everywhere, that I'm way behind on laundry. Like, I can't do the things that I need to do to function, let alone play with her. You know, like I sit on the floor, like, and we play, or I
know
still,
that kills your hip.
sometimes it helps because I can like stretch my leg out.
Oh, okay.
So I like move a lot when I'm doing that sometimes, but we have spent a lot of time on the couch watching TV, and I have nothing against that. I love spending time with her, watching her favorite shows or movies, but we are used to doing so many more active things than sitting on the couch and watching TV.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's affected my relationship with, my husband. Like, I don't even want to cuddle, if I'm being honest, because I'm like, you're putting pressure on my hip, or like,
Well, and even something
I move so much that try to get comfortable, like, I can't really, I haven't even talked about the body pain yet. but that's been a big thing. And then orthopedic, they did the neck injections, and they've just been they tried to give me anti-inflammatories, and anti-inflammatories don't do anything for me currently. Nothing. If I don't want to take, so the gabapentin is such a small dose that I can stop taking it if I want to. Okay. So I took it pretty regularly for several weeks, and that really seemed to help. And then I took it once a day instead of twice. And now I'm just kind of taking it when it's really bad. So I could take like Tylenol, and it'll take the edge off, which is fine, of like a headache. Nothing helps with body pain. Nothing. Anti-inflammatories, Tylenol. I don't really take pain medication, but I have. Nothing helps. They even gave me a little TENS unit. It goes from nothing to me ripping it off of my body, so it doesn't help. I don't know if you've tried a TENS unit or not.
Yeah, I have one. I use it a lot.
Oh, good for you. Does it help?
I use it a lot for the knee, because all of the muscles around the knee have spasmed. So the calf and the quad and the hamstring all get locked up. So I use it on those. It does not help for my headaches and my neck.
Yeah, so they gave it to me to help with the neck. They even gave me like the special little neck strap, and it went from like, the settings on it are just so drastic, I guess, that it was either like, I don't know, electrocuting me, which is too much, or it was doing absolutely nothing. So
mine is more gradual.
I mean, I guess it has settings, but that's how my body reacted to it, I guess.
Right.
I don't know, but I have it. I guess I could try it again. But anyways, that's all of the head stuff. So orthopedic, we're now more focusing on my hip because I've also had 2 years ago, I had a torn rotator cuff that from a different car accident that it got fixed. We did therapies and stuff. I didn't have to have surgery. I mean, I always have some like a little bit of stuff from that because I'm always going to have something from that. There's some scar tissue in there, you know, but that did not get re-injured. The injury is here in these like muscles and in the muscles in my shoulder and right here because this is becomes, huh?
From the seatbelt?
I don't even know if it was from the seatbelt. I think part of it's coming down from my neck of like muscle injury in my neck because when my seat broke backwards, my head went, this is the seat and this is my head. My head went like this.
Oh yeah, so it pulled everything.
Pulled everything.
Oh, got it, yeah.
My neck was literally this big for weeks because of all like out to here because of all the swelling. And there's these like tendons right here.
Yeah.
Okay, they were so swollen, like it impacted my ability to swallow. They're better now. Like I couldn't do this. I couldn't even move my head this far. Now I've got this. But like when I had to drive, so like I'm turning my whole body, which also hurts, by the way. So I had all of the pain from my seat breaking, from a rear impact, and then my hip must have hit the seatbelt, possibly leg hit the emergency brake. I don't know. My foot that was on the brake, I know went underneath the panel in the front of the car, and I hit my ankle. And so currently my pain is in my hip and down my leg and into that ankle and my foot. Like it is so painful. I've been limping, and that's why I'm seeing the neuromuscular therapist now, is because I don't want to get a cortisone shot because we don't know that it's the joint. She thinks everything has become so tight across like my glutes and the back area that it's a response, it's a compensation for pain and response to the pain and the inability to do different things. And so the body's responding that way. And I can't do anything. I can't do enough to loosen that or do anything for that.
Have you tried the pen on that?
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything for that either.
Oh, I was just wondering if it could loosen enough, because if I think of like the body mechanics of your impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your foot went up kind of under the dash.
Mm-hmm.
Your chair broke, right? Like your seat
so the top went back.
Your entire body got kind of hyperextended, and it probably tweaked and pulled that hit. Like if you just think about the force that you got hit with.
Yeah, I mean
that makes a lot of sense because your foot had nowhere to go, right? Like like your body reacted because you've got enough flexibility here, but your foot was anchored, so there was nowhere for that to go.
And I wish I knew exactly what my body did, but I don't recall any of it because
I don't think you would that quickly. Like I don't think we have the ability to remember that mess.
Maybe not.
And that's probably a good thing.
Probably, but they also think that we're also pretty sure that I blacked out.
That would make sense.
I don't recall blacking, but I mean,
it may have been very, very short, right? Like,
yeah, I have no idea. I don't, because I do know that like when I opened my eyes, the guy in front of me was already out of his car. So I don't know how long. And then when I was able to like look in the like side view mirror, the guy behind me was like was trying to get out of his door, but he ended up having to get out of the window. So I don't know how long. And I didn't even realize that I'd blacked out until several weeks later talking to the neurologist. And we're like, as much trauma as you've been through, and like as hard as I hit my head, I had to have hit my head, because like that neck stretch, like I absolutely hit my head. And so I had to have blacked out, and that it's just it's so frustrating. And you know, one of the things that I've really struggled with is, we're working on the hip now. That's the big focus right now, is working on the hip. And so that's ongoing, but that's all the time. I'm sitting here and it is throbbing. but there's nothing I
Do
can
you have
really.
that burning in addition to it? Because that's what my knee feels like. It's like a constant on fire.
That's what goes down the side of my leg and into my ankle.
Yeah, I have that from my down. I have it from my knee going in my calf down to like right where the ankle meets. But like
Yeah.
it's just constant burning.
It burns, yes. So like, and at the concussion therapies that I'm doing, one of the things that we're working on is getting my balance back. And so they have you do these exercises and then you do balance. And so you like put your feet together and you have to stand still. And then you have like one foot up and you stand still. And then you have, but
Yeah,
then
they do that with me in physical therapy. And I'm like, this is deceptively hard.
it was really bad when I first did
I never thought it was so hard to stand still before in my life.
Nope. It's real hard, especially when you got some thick thighs too. And you got to put your
And that
ankles
foot,
together.
you have to do that foot back to back like that.
Yeah. It's hard. But then they make me do exercises in between.
Oh, do you have to do the stretchy band with it? Like, oh, so they make me do this with a stretchy band that I'm pulling with my upper body? Girl.
That sounds awful.
I was like you look at them do it because they're perfect, right? And you go,
Right.
oh, okay. And then you realize that you can't quite stand that way, much less pull a band.
Right. No, what they have me do is in between those standing things, they have me do, there's like a walking, so it's a camera that's looking at me and it's judging where I am, and I'm looking at the screen and it's like a little course. It's like a box.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So one of them, I'm walking to the spot on the box. Okay. And then the next one, I have to do it at a jogging pace, side to side, like this. Okay. Side to side. My jogging pace is probably just a slightly quicker walk. And then the one they just introduced is a running pace. It's probably more like a jogging, maybe not even, because I'm like, nope. And what they have me do is they go to the front of the box and then I have to go to the back of the room and back and like this. And I'm supposed to lean down and touch the floor. You know what I don't do? That.
Lean down and touch. All right. So when I increase my heart rate, everything hurts worse. Do you have that same reaction?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden you become very aware that your heartbeat is elevated because you feel it in between your ears.
I start to get
behind the eyes.
I start to feel it up my neck, up my neck, and like into the right side of my head. That's where I start to feel it.
Okay.
I haven't gotten it behind my
anything
eyes.
that raises my heart rate, because that just makes everything in my head so much worse.
Yep. And stress makes that worse too.
Yeah.
But my, like, partway through that, like my hip was in so much pain already, and like everything was just burning just down the right side. I'm like, come on. And so then you have to do the balance again after that. I'm like, this is not fair. They're like, this is what's helping make it better. I'm like, is it?
Is it really?
Is it? Maybe it's for your enjoyment, but
that's why you're on camera. They go back and watch it later at lunch. Cocktails after hour.
Probably. It's like you said when we first started, it's like you feel like a broken record saying things over and over again. And I feel that way too, of like, well, this is what we're doing today. And let me back up. In the beginning, I felt like I didn't know how to say that I needed people to ask how I was, but I needed that, I guess. And it was mostly my husband that I needed that from. And like I had like a breakdown about that and we cried. But then he started asking too much. And I'm like, so then I was like, I don't need you to ask me every day. I just need for you to show that you care more, even though I know you care, but currently I need that extra support because I feel like I'm going insane because I've literally never been through this before. Pain, sure, but like this type of thing, never. And so that's been an interesting, like, asking enough but not asking too much, because then it becomes a chore and then you're like, I don't fucking want to tell you anything anymore. Like it becomes such a thing that you don't
want to come off rudely, be like same as yesterday or not much better, like, and that's become my baseline, right? So now when people ask, I'm like, maybe better today, or like last week with that terrible weather and the storms that we had coming through Atlanta and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, when I
Awful.
tell you I was ready to kill people, like, I
So
mean,
bad.
and I was like, and when I talked to my therapist this week, she goes, "You're totally different than last week." I said, "It's also not raining, and they also gave me a new med, so now I have hope again." Like, at least it restarts. Like, you get to that point where you've been trying this new path for
Mhm.
4 to 6 weeks, and then you get to the end of that, and you're like, and it didn't help. This is the 14th thing we've tried, and you get into that
Yeah.
depression of, this is my future. Like, these are medical professionals and they can't get me there, right? But
Right.
then it's like the rain goes away and you get a new med and suddenly you're this new person, right? And then I'm like, okay, but let's see how I am in 4 to 6 weeks,
Right.
because I have a feeling that roller coaster's coming back. So it's like I've literally had to get into, because Jake's pretty good about like asking how I'm doing and feeling
Mhm.
and this, that, and the other, and so is Angel. And it's like I just literally try to compare it, like, I'm kind of about the same,
Right.
or this seems to maybe be a little bit better, or
Yeah.
I just, instead of like going into it all of again, it also helps me reset. Is this a better day or is this a worse day
Yeah.
from everything? But it can also be different how I feel physically versus mentally,
I get that.
right? So there's that balance that it forces me to kind of check in with me, which I don't do very well,
Yes.
right? So I don't realize how bad I am until it's either pointed out or something so outrageous happens that I then have to realize what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's the other benefit to having people ask, is that you actually have to think about it.
And I think that's probably something that's helped that side too, because I feel like I've always had a really high pain tolerance, like my whole life. Okay. So what you said earlier, you drop a normal ass person into one of our positions right now, they're going to be praying for death. I'm at like a 5 today,
Yeah, I was telling my
maybe.
doctors and my therapist, I said, it's one of those things where I never felt the need to identify with people or really understand where they came from. And,
Mhm.
being a bio major, and
Mhm.
you kind of had that background too, right? You
Right.
read about like the old school, like lobotomies and things like that.
Yep.
I completely understand why people signed up for that, because right
Mhm.
now, if you told me you could take a lobe out and I wouldn't feel any of this ish
That'd
anymore,
be great.
please,
That'd be great.
please, I can only speak in 3-word sentences. I'm cool with that. Just make this stop.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
literally, I felt the need to identify with that. I have loved them from a medical perspective of
Mhm.
like everything that you've taught us by doing that. But what the hell was wrong with you? I'm there. Like,
Yep, I
like,
totally get that.
literally told them, I said, I'm at the point of where if you told me you could do a lobotomy and I would not feel this pain anymore, I'd sign up tomorrow. Like,
Mhm.
and my therapist was like, and everybody's so worried about you being a junkie, that she was like, honestly, a junkie, at least then you wouldn't have any pain anymore. She goes, I can wean you off drugs.
Right? Right? I mean, you're not wow.
I
I
mean,
can wean
if
you
she got
off drugs.
right. But it's just, you get to that point
Yeah.
where, like, even with your medical professionals, they're like, look, I'm right there with you. Like,
Mhm.
they like, and that's like almost one of the worst things, is when they look at you and say that they
Yep.
don't know either, but they're
Right.
like, we're going to figure it out. And you're like, okay, but you don't know either. So who are you going to talk to?
The other people that maybe don't know.
Right.
And
But
that's
it's
not
like, and
it's
that's so important to have like that team. Like, so like you're saying, like you wind up
yeah.
having this team of people that's
Mhm.
working, because nobody knows. And so
Right.
they're literally just like, okay, well, what can we do
Mhm.
try to move this? It's like, I feel like
Right.
a Rubik's Cube. Like, we're going to twist this part and do that.
Some days I do feel like I literally do feel like that. Like,
Like, where this works, but that
mhm.
doesn't. And that's not in alignment. And this is better,
Yep.
but that sucks now. Like,
Right. Like, but it is really nice to have people that can work together, because like orthopedic respected the chiropractic aspect and
right.
they respected like it was really hard when they were like, no, we can't adjust your neck for 4 weeks. And I'm like, what?
Well, you
But
don't want to
he
die.
lit you don't want to die. But there was
Be
so
paralyzed. I mean,
I don't think I was gonna get paralyzed per se, but
you don't know.
I
I mean, like, that's the risk, right?
that's why chiropractic sent me to the orthopedic. He was like, I think you need to get checked out because I don't feel comfortable with this right now. I'm
Right.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I
If you
mean, when
don't
you
feel
talk
comfortable
about
with
the
that,
body
then
being extended in a way that it's not supposed to, you don't know what that's going to do. I mean,
yeah.
that's,
And
And that's one of those things where that would have been the only reason that I would have said, I can't believe she didn't go in an ambulance, was just because when I
right.
saw that headrest getting broken, right? And just think about that impact, right? Like, had
Yeah,
they known you had blacked out at that point, they probably would have put you on a stretcher and out you go, right? Just because
maybe.
of the trauma.
Yeah,
But
I mean, she did like, I told her like what, because I was laying there when the EMTs came over and she checked me out. She didn't see like anything that would have indicated like internal bleeding, like there's no immediate bruising. I told her about what hurt. I said my neck really hurts. And one of the reasons that she, I think, was okay with not sending me to the emergency room is because I was able to sit up. I was having a coherent conversation with her. And there's still a lot of COVID in the emergency rooms.
oh yeah, that's true.
And that
Yeah.
was right after spring break. And there was
Oh, right. Yeah.
there's a bit of a pop right after spring break in April. And so she was like, if you feel worse, I need you to go to an urgent care. I'm
Right.
like, okay,
Right.
not the emergency room, because urgent cares, especially the ones down here, we had the Piedmont and the Emory ones in
Yeah.
Sandy Springs, you know, they can do the tests that you need.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, they can do everything. But I ended up not doing that. Probably should have, you know. Relationship aspect of like Angel and I not having a friendship for 3 months, basically, like I didn't realize how bad that had gotten. But she said it was like existing, is she said it seems like that I was just existing in such a it, that existing is such a chore that nothing else can be bothered with. And when she said that, I was like, I guess it has been like that, that like just the thought of being awake and having to do something is so much, oh, so many days that I can't think about anything else. Like, and I know that it's affected now. I know how much it's affected her, and I know it's affected stuff with my husband. And thinking about that earlier when she and I were chatting, like I didn't realize that it's affecting Aria, because you know she's a daddy's girl, but like when we're at home getting ready for bed doing things like that, she wants me. She hasn't, and I don't think she has because I can't do it. I can't pick her up. Like I've just started picking her up because I want to. I need to do that and like have her in my arms. She weighs 40 pounds, by the way. So it's not a light pickup, but like because I've realized in the last like week, like she's not coming to me for those things. She's going to Mike for those things. And it's not that I'm not ready for her to be asking other people. It's not that. It's that my relationship with my 3-year-old has changed because I'm not present like I was. And like it's just I didn't realize that. And that is really hard because it's when she was little, she was 6 months old when we got in that first car accident. I literally could not pick her up. I couldn't hold her. Mike would have to bring her to me. When we went to the doctor, somebody else, I would have to like heave the carrier onto the stroller because I couldn't do anything with my arm. But and that was awful. But this is so much worse because now she knows. Now she knows that things are wrong and she knows that things are different and she knows that mommy's not in the mood or mommy can't do that, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
I mean,
like,
it's just like we've realized, like I was sharing it with you with the
yeah.
boys, right? They change the relationship with you based on what you're able to do, and that breaks my heart worse than anything else.
Hi. Yeah, it's like, and that's really something that it just when Angel said that to me today, like I guess I don't know if I just finally let it click or just like I just started thinking about it and I'm like, I've been doing these things because I need those things again, but I subconsciously I think I'm doing those things because I've realized how much she has noticed these changes and how much it's affecting her.
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling as a mom.
No, it's terrible. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, but you know, it's like, you know, like Vinny now is pretty good about knowing which leg to sit on, but
Okay.
before
good.
he wouldn't, right? But literally, because of my level of pain, anytime the kids come in to even like hug me or touch me, like if Jake's around, he's like, be careful with mama. Like,
Oh,
'cause he
yeah.
knows that literally every little thing
Yeah.
causes like a flare up or pain, or he'll see me wince. But to your point, like we force ourselves to do those things because we need those things,
Right.
right? Like we, like you think about how like close our kids are and we hold them, and especially with you having the left arm injury, right, which is where
Yeah.
we hold them, right? And like
Mhm.
my injury is to the left knee, so like
Yeah.
everybody's like, hold your son on the other side, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. They
No.
hate it. They hate it. We
Yeah.
hate it. It's a
Throws
mental
your
brain.
balance off. It's
Well, and
like,
it's a brain chemistry thing,
it
right?
is.
It's the fact that that's where the relationship gets fostered. And so, like,
Right.
if he, like, Marshall's like, what, 32 pounds? Like, if I try to hold him on the right side, he will freak out and go back. Every once in a while, he'll hang out in the middle,
Yeah.
but otherwise, he's on the left. And literally, it's like, I think the boys have just like, they've learned that I'm not like, they'll be like, oh, can we go ride bikes? You don't have to ride yours. But, and they know that I'm not going to follow them all the way up and down the street anymore because it makes
Yeah.
my knee flare. So like they know I'm going to stand somewhere and they need to stay within the boundaries. But it's like, to your point, like he knows he can come sit in my lap when he needs something or whatever.
Right.
But like, he's like, can you lift me? Never mind, I'll get a step stool. Like, you know, but like Marshall, on the other hand, right, is doing more of the clingy, like, you know, hold me, hold me, hold me.
Yeah.
Right, because I can't be doing a lot of the, you know, now if he wants to walk because he's 2.5, he's still slow enough, I can handle that, right? But you know, when he wants to like be off on the bike and running on the playground, oh, we up.
Yeah.
That was quick.
I don't know why she's up actually, but that's okay. Come here, baby.
But yeah, I mean, it is hard because then we notice, like, you know, as little as they are, like emotionally, they're so intelligent, right?
They
And
are.
like when we see that,
Mhm.
hi,
Hi.
you know, it makes it so much harder on us,
It
like because
does.
we see, like we don't even like how it's affected us, but to affect our kids is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and that's like mom guilt.
Yeah,
The
times
highest,
1,000.
the highest mom guilt. And that affects you mentally too, right? Like you already have things that are affecting you mentally, and then you have that intense amount of mom guilt on. It's not. How do you deal with that? Like I don't even. Not very well. I don't deal with it very well.
Now, like, I mean, and the thing is, and I don't know about for you, like at least when I know that I hurt worse at the end of the day because I was doing stuff with the kids, it's
Yeah.
easy for me to deal with that bad day after because
Right.
I know that I was perfect sunglasses, baby, beautiful,
Upside down and everything.
you know. But I mean, when like those days, like where, you know, we do too much at the park or we do
Yeah.
this and the other, like the next day or even that night, I'm gonna be dying. And you know, the doctors are saying, well, you have to know, you have to limit yourself. And I was like, I'm already not there for a lot of my kids' stuff.
Mhm.
You know, what I can force myself to do in that moment, I'm gonna still force myself to be able to do. And
Like
we're gonna have to deal with it. And they're like, well, you're
yeah.
not, but it hampers your progress too at the same time. Like, but for me, again, you know, that mom thing, like we sacrifice
Yep.
for what we can do, especially when that mom guilt hits us, right? Because the realization that we're affecting them then makes it harder.
Yeah. And like, so a good example of that for me was when we did the 4th of July party. I wasn't feeling well. I didn't know
Right.
I was going to have food poisoning, but I wasn't feeling well. And Mike asked me, he's like, do you want to cancel? Like, I'm like, no, I mean, I was looking forward to it as well, but Aria was looking forward to seeing the boys and Mike was looking forward to hanging out as well. Like, I'm not going to, I've got everybody now, apparently. I'm just missing one kitty. But I just need, like, I'm not canceling because I don't feel well. You know,
Right.
we're still
That's
going to
worse,
go.
right? That makes you feel even worse.
Yeah. Makes me feel worse that because she was ready. Like she was ready the whole day. You know what I mean?
She was
Like,
playing hard. She was so cute.
so cute. They were all cute. They were all cute. But like I wasn't going to tell her, oh, I'm sorry, baby, we can't go over there. She would have been devastated, you know? And then I didn't want to just send the two of them because then I would miss out on
Right.
seeing her
Right.
play and be happy. And like that plays into like a lot of things, like what you were just saying, of like it's easier to deal with the pain at the end of the day because when you did something that made your kids happy.
Well, and miraculously, and I think I saw it on you too, like on that 4th of July, like you felt like death warmed over.
Yeah.
I was kind of probably medium rare death, right? So,
yeah.
I mean,
it wasn't a good day for either one of us, but we were there.
But it was still one of those things to see the kids playing together. Like in that moment, you can still feel joy that you wouldn't have felt sitting on a couch. Right. Like you would have felt like miserable or knowing that, knowing that, nobody was enjoying that day or wondering what there could have been.
Right.
And versus you, at least there was still joy in that day, despite how bad we felt. Right.
And I don't think the kids realized how bad either of us may have felt.
And that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, hopefully, like something starts to click positively for, one or both of us, like eventually, it's just been like, it's hard to be in those, like, thank you, buddy. It's just hard to kind of manage through and, days like today for you where you're realizing the impact stretches beyond you, right? Yep. And like you're having that realization, like that happens in my roller coasters too, is that it's like all of a sudden I'm like, and there are times where it's like I am aware that I'm just kind of existing, and then there's times where I'm not even aware that I'm just existing, and then something will happen to point it out, or like I haven't realized how bad it's been until somebody's like, well, yeah, you haven't really kind of been talking much.
Yeah, that was definitely today. And then she made, I guess I didn't respond for a while. And she said, we're okay, by the way. And I said, okay. She's like, I didn't tell you those things to like upset you or ruin your day. And I'm like, I know that she didn't. I just, that impact of her actually telling me like how it's like affected her. And then that making me think about how it's affected Aria. But anyways, people are probably tired of hearing about us talk about this.
I'm tired of talking about it.
I'm tired of talking about it too. But thank you for talking about it and for sitting down. And it probably went a lot longer than we intended. But I mean, it's hard stuff. It's important stuff because there's got to be other moms out there like us, like, I mean, that are living in pain and, need some other support because you're not alone. There are other people, and like especially with yours of like it being your body and like trying to find out what's just going on in your own body, and that's really rough. And I know that there's absolutely other moms out there that are going through things like that, and I think it's important that they know not to give up, and to keep going. And there are other people feeling those things too. And again, thank you for chatting. It's been eye-opening for me actually, because I haven't known about everything that's been going on with you. And it's been a really great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down and chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure to subscribe to this channel so that, when other amazing content like this comes
really
out.
Uplifting, positive conversations.
Mom's being real, yo. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell icon so you get notified when our next video comes out. Give us a thumbs up. Comment down below. Do you suffer with chronic pain, mentally, physically? Like, are you suffering with anything like this? What do you do to cope? Do you have resources for groups that we can join? Let us know. Comment down below and follow us on social media at Momestly on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will see you in the next one. Bye, moms.